Welcome back to the channel, folks. Mr. H here for an update on The Hunt, the incredibly controversial movie, for reasons, I guess. Don't really understand why. So if you don't know what this was a movie releasing on Universal, but produced, I believe, by Jason Blum of Blumhouse. And it's been called to essentially just be cancelled. Don't release it ever, it's horrendous. Because apparently we can't discern fact from fiction these days. So just to kind of get into the background of it, and I appreciate there's some sensitive material in this, I do get that. But just to get into the background of it, The Hollywood Reporter has quite an interesting write-up of all the test screenings, and then we'll go into the update, which is probably what you came here for, which is Jason Blum still hopes to release it. Now, because again, not everyone's talking about this, probably because it's just going to be demonetized on YouTube, which is fine. But it says a politically charged satire denounced by Trump and the right sparked menacing emails as its violent marketing ran squarely into horrific news of a trio of mass shootings. On the evening of August 6th, so this is relatively all new stuff, Universal Pictures held a test screening of its thriller satire The Hunt at a crowded theatre in the San Fernando Valley. It was the second such screening, and some test audience members were again expressing discomfort with the politics of the Jason Blum produced film. A source familiar with the feedback tells The Hollywood Reporter. So, a lot of people were really uncomfortable, but that's kind of what you want with a film like this, isn't it? You want people to be uncomfortable. You want people to question things. If it's a thriller satire, you want to take a look at, the world as is and go, right, let's question things. Let's put it across in a way where we can digest it, but still question it and be, uncomfortable about it, but still digest the material at hand. So I think they, without getting into it too much, I think that they achieved something relatively good with this from their purpose anyway. Now, Hunt, directed by Craig Zobel, chronicles a dozen deplorables trying to outlast a group of private jet-flying elites bent on killing their anti-choice gun-loving targets. So it's very satirical. Very satirical. Gun-loving targets, anti-choice. It's literally flipping. Well, it's not really, is it? It's looking at the world as is now and going, right, if things don't change, this is probably how mad it's going to get. Within reason, I understand. But when we talk about the left and the right and things like this, when the left have gone so far afield that they're, quelling people's freedom of speech under the guise of inclusivity and things like this, then things have gone too far. And that if things were really out of hand and we lived in this kind of world, this is something which is believable. It's just a warped version of The Purge, essentially. Now, following a THR story earlier that day on the altering of the film's marketing plan in the wake of a trio of mass shootings, Universal executives and the filmmakers began receiving death threats via email and on social media and immediately paused the campaign altogether. Now, that is... I denounce anyone that does that. That's disgusting behaviour. It's a goddamn movie. It's a movie. Don't threaten someone's life over a movie. What are you doing? You're a scumbag. You literally lose all argument at that point because you are becoming what this is satirically about. Surely that's not too difficult to understand, is it, really? Madness. Now, sources say the studio's internal security force became involved, but outside law enforcement was not alerted. It appears that Universal did not foresee the maelstrom to come, including round-the-clock Fox News segments and tweets by President Trump seemingly directed at the title. Now, again, what are you doing? Fox News, don't you have anything better to talk about? It's a satirical look at the world. I genuinely would have thought that and again, without getting into the kind of politics behind it, I genuinely would have thought the likes of Fox News and Trump would have appreciated something like this. It appears they've got no sense of humour, but just from a satirical standpoint, it's funny. That's funny. In the current climate, where one of the mass shooters parroted anti-immigration talking points of the right in an online manifesto, while another espoused violent left-wing ideology, the film, formerly titled Red State versus Blue State, seemed to throw a match on gasoline. Yeah, I mean, look, unfortunately, there are things which have happened in the real world which cross over. It just so happens that this has obviously touched on some of it. But again, it's where do you draw the line? Who's the arbiter of what's offensive and what's not? In order to entertain, in order to put one's opinion across, you have to be willing and accepting of the fact that you will offend someone and they will offend you. That's just the way the world is. Unfortunately, there's nothing wrong with that. You just need to learn to grow a backbone. The film, formerly titled... by August 10th, the studio had scrapped the release entirely. So literally 4 days after its initial marketing and the test screenings, leaving its future in limbo. It's not clear why the studio agreed to make the $18 million film without toning down or removing the political references, given that other studios passed on the material as too hot button. Sources say multiple Universal executives had reservations about the project when leaders Jeff Shell and Donna Langley brought it in May 2018. The studio had kept details of the script by Nick Cuse and Damon Lindelof secret and didn't feature any of the overt political themes in its marketing materials, even as it advertised the film during Democratic debates and on Tucker Carlson's Fox show. I don't see anything wrong with this at all. Like I said, it gets into the kind of craziness of who's going to be the arbiter of what's offensive and what's not, because by definition, offence isn't given, it's taken. You choose to be offended by something. And it's a very slippery slope when we move things along into the world where, if this is offensive to people, we'll just can it entirely. That's a slippery slope. It's really, really dangerous stuff. So this is just a quick little interesting article. I think I've covered most stuff in here, but why Universal decided to cancel The Hunt. It's all to do with... It's literally all the same stuff. Like, it's all to do with... Sources say the studio's internal security force became involved. They didn't report anyone on the outside. There was emails, death threats. It's just madness. Now, their THR notes that Blumhouse has agreed to scrap it for now and move forward. Now, the latest is over here. Jason Blum still aims to release The Wild Hunt, but admits marketing mistakes were made. Now, producer Jason Blum admits Blumhouse and Universal Pictures made marketing mistakes when advertising horror thriller The Hunt, which had its theatrical release pulled in the wake of recent mass shootings. I learned a lot of lessons. I wouldn't alter my... If I was offered the choice to make the movie again, I would say yes. Blumhouse told Vulture, "We definitely made marketing mistakes, and we made plenty of mistakes along the way. So I've learned a lot. It might change how I would position movies and how I would consult on the marketing of the movies. But actually, the making of the movies, no. Good for you, mate. Genuinely good for you. Really, really good for you. I don't see any issue with this. I don't see any issue with this at all. I do find it comical when we talk about like the left and the right and things like this. And now it's the it's the right getting their knickers in a twist over the fact that left-wing ideologues in a movie, a fictitious movie, are killing right-wing people. Just grow a pair of balls. Grow a backbone. Grow a spine. There's no issue here. There shouldn't be, anyway. Craig Zabel's politically charged satire, penned by Nick Cuse and Damon Lindelof, centered on 12 deplorables attempting to survive when marked as the prey of wealthy elites. But these were the kind of left-wing ideologues. Now it says, "We stand by our filmmakers and will continue to distribute films in partnership with bold and visionary creations, like those associated with this satirical social thriller, but we understand that now is not the right time to release this film." And that's what Universal said. And I don't understand what the issue is with poking fun at stuff. Why can we release things like The Purge, but then we can't just flip it on its head and have something a little bit different with The Hunt? Now, I don't necessarily think this even sounds like a particularly good film. I think they achieved their described or reported desire for an outcome, because, of course, it has gotten people, amped up. And undoubtedly they wanted that to happen. Probably not to this extent, though. But it's interesting. So both Universal and Blum consider The Hunt indefinitely postponed. Asked if there is a chance that the film will see a future release, Blum answered, definitely a chance, I hope so. Now, interestingly, Trump obviously got involved and he said what they're doing with the kind of movies they're putting out, it's actually very dangerous for our country. No, it's not. No, it's not. Evidence supports this. There's evidence that supports that this is not the case. Same as the whole nonsense about video games. Come on. Don't jump on that retarded bandwagon, because there's enough evidence now. What Hollywood is doing is a tremendous disservice to our country. No. Right, well anyway, look, there you go. That's the news. It looks like it will get a release eventually. I hope it just comes to streaming and they don't have to, dumb it down. Universal, I believe, have actually sold a whole bunch of movies to Netflix. So there's the likelihood that this will probably come to Netflix. Same with Jason Blum. Jason Blum and Blumhouse have worked with Netflix before. I think this will probably be the case. But I wanted to bring you this news. What do you think? And where do you sit on this? Where do you sit on the topic of being, an arbiter of offence? Because again, what is offensive to some people is not to others. It's a very slippery slope when we start controlling things which are deemed offensive to some and not others. Because where do you draw the line? So anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below in the comments. If you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe. You can stay up to date on the world of pop culture and movie news by hitting the bell notification icon. But thank you so much for watching. As always, I've been Mr. H. Take care.